Welcome, everybody, to another great episode of Landscaping to the Point. I am your host, Scott, and our co-hosts are right below me. Way in the middle is JC, the boxer, and down at the bottom is the ghost, Josh. He looks like a ghost. He's got for some reason, his back screen is just like, I don't know, white as a ghost. I don't know. Maybe he is a ghost. I don't know. So what's going on, fellas? It is a new week. We got some great things. Thanks for everybody that's watching us, no matter where you're watching us. If you're on Instagram, YouTube, you're listening to us wherever you're listening to. You can listen to us on Spotify. You can listen to us on Boots on Radio. Thank you guys for listening and watching. So what's going on, fellas? I know it's been a busy week here. We've had some ups and downs with snow squalls. I think you guys probably had the same thing over where you're at too.
Yeah. We had some snow come down. I'm sure Josh is pretty happy getting all his equipment out. Man, speaking of snow, I fell on my ass today. Down like 4 stairs outside because of this snow. And it's one of those times where you fall on the ground and you just kind of give up on life and you just stay there. I took a moment to reflect. I was on the ground and I just I'm at that age. I'm falling. I have no balance.
Questioning choices in life. Why? Yeah. What led me to this moment in life?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Oh man, and my elbow's all jacked up.
What'd you do to your elbow, man?
I fell, man. It was like it was like a scene from Home Alone.
Jeez, that sucks, dude. I was over at the college yesterday with my daughter, and I almost fell down the steps, and I was teasing her that she tripped me down the steps, and she's like, "No, I did not, Dad. Quit doing that." I said, "Yeah, you did. You were trying to trip me. Come help me fall down the steps in front of everybody."
Wow.
But yeah, it sucks. You kind of lose that little bit of balance when you're walking sometimes, and you're like, "What the hell? What am I doing?"
Yeah, I need a sign by my bed that says fall risk. You know, the nursing homes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would be interesting. Oh, so you got some salt. I hope you got some salt going on there, Josh. I mean, I got to go out and salt. We woke up Monday, I think it was, and we were kind of surprised. We had about a half inch of stuff on the ground. It turned literally to ice within seconds. And we didn't have no salt in stock, so we had to run go get salt. And it was a fun trying to get from our salt place all the way to our first stop and salt the crap out of everything. But we got it all done, and then we went out and did a cleanup. So, but yeah, we've had a couple other times this week that we got to go out, which was actually pretty good. I don't know about you.
We got five applications and across the board with all the properties, so it was fair. I think it was this was kind of a scramble. This was supposed to be the last chapter of getting the snow stuff ready, starting Monday, and then Monday night they confirmed that we were getting possibly something on Wednesday. Wednesday came through. Thursday gave something with some squalls, and then I got my days all mixed up. I'm on 5 hours of sleep with what's going on. But yeah, we got five applications on the last one. We lucked out because actually we took delivery on 2 sites of tractor trailer loads of salt. So we were actually good in that aspect. I broke out the brine for the first time this year. So
how'd that work?
I don't know. So I want to say that it worked fair. This is my first time doing it. In disclaimer, it's a makeshift setup. I don't have a VSI. I have I think it's Turf Turbo.
Okay.
It's the tank, and then the pump is the pump that you would get with them. I bought used, and then it's a homemade setup with irrigation polyline down to a pressure regulator for irrigation to a 2-inch PVC with actual calcium tank nozzles. So the way that it's built, it should put out, in theory, it should put out the 40 gallons per acre at 10 miles an hour. I slowed down a little bit where it was my first time, so I probably over applied to certain areas. It is a one lane sprayer, so it's good for drive lanes. It's not good for the parking lots. I'll send you guys some photos of what I did on one of our utility companies. There was no scraping, so I didn't see the benefit as far as the scrape. But I do know in one of the lots I've had that's just outside Boston, I went there, and this is the first time in my life that I've overslept on a storm on my alarms. Or it wasn't really a storm, an event.
Right.
Ran down there, and the brine actually did its job. I did the drive lanes fairly heavy down there, and I didn't even have to spot treat. So I was kind of impressed with it. This was liquid salt with no additives or anything. I'm going to use liquid salt a few more times. The only reason I did what I did is just because we have a lot of stuff that's not ready. We have most of our salters are down right now for repairs. A bunch of them need chains. It needs some lube work and some welding. So I use that as kind of just the variable of let me play around. These weren't serious storms or anything, but so far so good. I don't know. This is all new to me. So I'm listening to podcasts. I'm reading online. I'm reading manufacturer specs, and I'm just trying to dial in my GPMs and GPAs, gallons per acre as I go. So I think what we're going to do is hopefully this week we have everything in place. I have the low bed. We were talking before. I had some issues with the low bed drivers and taking delivery equipment and salt bin blocks. So if everything goes as planned this week, the truck is supposed to be in one region, and it's a 300-gallon tank, which would roughly give me about, if you were dialing in, 7.5 acres. But I think because we don't have that dial, I want to say that we'll probably do about 5 acres per tank, and we're just going to do it on a pre-treat, and then we'll post-treat with granular. But I had fun with it. I definitely see the benefit to it where it worked in certain places. We're not at a point to post-treat, but we'll play around. It's going to go on one specific site in one region and act as a pre-treat, and we're going to see the combination of calcium or brine pre-treat, metal blades on the pushers and the plows, and we're going to try to minimize post-treat. So I think this one site, they post-treated a half an inch on 3 acres, and they burned it off with about a yard of straight salt. They pre-treated it with about a third of a yard or so, a little less than that prior. So I'm hoping that we get the benefit of it. It's definitely a program that has to be put in place on some of these properties, but it'd be interesting to see. So that was interesting. That was new to me. That's
good. That's good that you're seeing a benefit to it. And I think that should hopefully end out really good for you in the end of the year too. I mean, it's, would you say cost wise, it's cheaper to buy that way compared to bulk salt?
Yeah. So figure if you're using rule of thumb, like a yard per acre, right? That's
right.
Typically around 800 pounds per acre. Most guys will say they're doing 800. They're around 200 to 500, pre-treat versus post-treat being a 5 to 8. So let's say that 5 to 8 costs you, and again, this is going to vary, across the country, but out here in the Northeast, I want to say that would probably cost you about $110, right? For that coverage. The liquid brine would average out, if you were doing yardage, about $27 per yard. Calcium would be a little bit more, and I think we're gonna. The difference with it is I'm not making my own. I'm not into making anything right now. So I have a bigger landscape company based in Malden and Wilmington, Mass. That I just pick up. I go there and they hook up the motor to that 5,000 gallon tank, or they lift the tote. I'm gonna buy totes and put them in place after this. But the benefit of doing the calcium is it costs me a little bit more. So it cost me with tax $200 to fill my 300-gallon tank with liquid brine. It's 15 bags of calcium to make 300 gallons of liquid calcium, which would cost me at $15 a bag around $230, $240. And I'd get the same application rate, but I think the calcium is going to burn hotter. So I can probably get away with more of that 40-gallon per acre mix versus, me trying to be over caution and putting 50 to 60 down with a liquid salt. Plus, I can make that myself. It agitates so I would put a quarter of the tank in with water, dump the 15 bags in, agitate it with the 2-inch fire hose of the water going in, and that stuff heats up to about 160 degrees. So it's cooking as you're filling it up. Whereas the salt, you have to agitate it and you go through that process. I don't have infrastructure in place for that. And I don't really have interest in doing that yet. I'd rather just buy it from someone that makes it. I do have the Saltinity checker to make sure it's at 23.3 when I buy it. That's the one thing that I'm doing. So, but there's a lot of research that goes into it. There's a lot of variables and stuff that you have to look at, what are the conditions when you're putting it down? What are the conditions going to be? Do you need to use an additive in it? Can you get away with putting down just liquid salt? Or the temperature is going to be too cold where it's not going to activate? Or, is that Saltinity under 23.3 and you're going to put an ice skating rink out? That's also the reason why I don't trust myself in making the liquid brine, is because I don't want to put a hockey rink on someone's parking lot either.
Right. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, it's probably better, for right now, till you get it dialed in perfectly, to buy it from somebody else. And, even if you had to buy it, a separate tank to put on each site and have it delivered to that tank to where you could fill it up. I mean,
I think what we're going to do is, what I found so far is I can pick it up with my own totes. Anywhere between 65 and 70 cents a gallon, which isn't bad. I'd like to see, next year, if we decide to move forward, obviously, like treating a site and then going back and having a, forklift a 275 gallon tote and then gravity drop it in, or, get a water pump and feed it in on a 1,000-gallon tank. We have to figure out something, because repeatedly going back and forth is going to get a little annoying. And that's why we're only going to use it on one site this year, just so we're not having to go back and forth. We're going to keep probably 5 or 6 totes of the liquid brine, the liquid salt, on site. And I think at my yard, I'm going to start mixing up totes of the liquid calcium. And because I do want to see the difference between the two of them.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see the difference. I mean, I feel like it's good in the long run, and especially if you can save money and make it work, it's definitely worth it. I think it, in the long run, especially if you can, like I said, if you can get a tank and you can put it there, and you got a tank to be able to either gravity feed it, like you said, or fire hose it in yourself, dude. That probably save you as much, especially if you how many times you're going to have that truck come and deliver. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the pain in the ass, is like every time you come out, and I'm sure there's, even filling up, it's a 250 gallon minimum. You can't just roll in there and get 50 gallons. Right. So you got to make sure I think I had like 80 gallons left, and I had to go run that out, to make sure I was getting the biggest bang for my buck. When I got home today, I looked at Harbor Freight. You can get a Harbor Freight water pump for, on the lower end for $300, and then the fire hoses are probably $50 a piece, or $100. So, for around $500 for tax and everything, you can have yourself a little setup to feed it out, even if it's in a tote. But obviously you want it as efficient as possible. And efficiency will be there as you get a system in place, which there isn't a big system right now. We're just going, having it filled up, and then putting it down. It's right now it's in an experimental stage. It's not even something we're advertising, because I want to dial it in and see exactly how we're going to use it. And it might even be site specific, to be honest with you.
Right. Yeah. How much? Okay. Here's a good question for you, because I know you're just now doing it. Does the brine, if you get brine brought in, will it freeze in a tank? No. If you let it sit too long? No.
You might. So from what I've researched, agitation after so many months is something you need to do. So they say that you don't, but we're talking to guys that have done it. Like when they have those 10,000 gallon tanks and it sits for a year, you're going to have that sludge at the bottom of the tank. So you do have to have some way to agitate that liquid, whether it's some sort of vibrating system or rotating it out somehow. The guys that buy it off, so they shake their totes and stuff, and I'm like, that I don't want to hear that. That doesn't convince me. So. Right. Getting a liquid calcium, it agitates as you move it. It's a little thinner, it's finer. So I think I'm going to go probably that way. It's more expensive. I think when I priced the liquid calcium in the summer, I want to say it's a ballpark of like $1.50 to $2.35 a gallon.
Okay.
Versus the 60. But again, put bad calcium on a snow-packed driveway versus bag rock salt, and you're going to see the difference in the calcium burning through in probably 20 minutes versus that rock salt.
Right.
So that's it's heating up like almost instantaneously. So I definitely want to apply that and see. Plus, the theory I got from kind of a guy that's also walking me through this is he's telling me when you pre-treat with the liquid calcium, and you have that application rate down good, and you're scraping with that metal blade, you're not getting that pack, right? Because you put that liquid calcium down. Now, when you post-treat with a regular granular, non-treated, you're still going to have some of that residual calcium on the ground. So it's almost like you're getting the treated salt anyway. Again, that might be throwing a dart, but I get the idea behind that.
Right.
Is there a difference in time that do you have to like brine right before the storm a little sooner, or is like the rock salt, you could do it a little later before the storm or earlier before the storm?
You can. So for me, I try to do it. One of them was 24 hours before the storm, the snow came in. That's kind of where my comfort level is right now. But like you see, the cities and towns will do it like 2 days before. Like the Mass DOT will do some of the highways like a few days before a storm. And it bleeds in. But if you get rain, then it's diluting it. So it's not really, again, there is a science behind it where you have to kind of pay attention to your forecast and know all the variables that are going to come into play, And the thing that sucks and why I don't think it's that popular out here is because of our climate now. We don't get as cold as we used to. So a lot of our storms are starting out as rain, switching to snow, and ending as rain. So it's kind of hard to put that treatment down when you're getting that mixture.
Yeah. I think it just depends. Like you said, a lot of places put it down, 24 to 48 hours ahead of time. And I think if you can get it to a certain point where you got it dialed in to where you're going out to a site beforehand, it's going to work out better.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was just a major difference between that and like the rock salt.
Well, rock salt we try to put down maybe like a few hours before, just because it does get broken up. It gets tracked in the stores and stuff. I'm not big on going out like days before and pre-treating for granular. Usually it's like a few hours before, maybe the morning before.
Yeah, I think it's getting to a point where you're dialing it in, so that's a good thing.
And I'll probably add some pre-wet systems. One of the salters the trucks we bought this year has a pre-wet system on it. It's actually in the shop right now, getting fuel tank and fuel pump. But on the poly caches, I think I might experiment with some saddlebags and putting liquid calcium on that to pre-treat. Because I got right now on all my salt bins is just straight salt. I'll bring in some IVG to an area that gets a little colder, but for the two climates, they're closer to the coast. I can't really justify the cost on the tree where the ground doesn't get that cold.
Now, like you said, you had an opportunity to try this out on one of your you're only doing it on one of your properties, right?
No, so on this, I actually did it on this past Saturday night. I pre-treated on 4 properties. But going forward, once everything's got like all of our equipment's kind of like getting moved around right now and stuff's still being worked on, it's going to be inclusive to 1 property moving forward.
Let me ask you this. So, do your clients know that you're using it? Because like if they're used to the rock salt and they don't see that you're dropping rock salt, they're going to be, would you expect them to be like, hey, where's the rock salt?
They know we're using it. I made that clear with everybody. On the pre-treat, I don't think they give a fuck because it's the post-treat that people are so used to seeing the granular. I think that's when you would have a problem when people see a wet parking lot rather than having the granulars on the floor. It's just automatically, the floor is slippery, which I get it too, because after I sprayed, I've actually went out and did the little truffle shuffle on the ground because I'm like, it looks a little icy, and it's not. But no, that's why as of right now, it's just post-treat will still be strictly granular. But no, I don't anticipate having an issue on the pre-treat with anyone. I mean, the price hasn't changed right now. The price is still the same as a granular application just in case we have to go back to the granular application. But it's right now it's in its beta testing for me right now.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's a good thing. So, okay, now the topic's overtime. Do you pay overtime for your guys to go do all that stuff? If it comes down to it?
If it comes, most of the guys are just straight, but like the payroll guys, yeah, they'll get overtime. But I salary a couple guys in for the winter, so it makes the benefit for everybody.
Right.
But yeah, if it comes down to it, yeah. But I mean, the guys pretty much make fair bank on them. You know.
That's good. That's good.
Things are kind of set up this year a lot differently than I've done in years past, where I don't really see anybody really kicking over that 40-hour mark. I've told the sites and set the manpower up so that you shouldn't be breaking your back. I mean, obviously you're going to have those winters where it just happens, but you know, if history repeats itself, we haven't really had, you know, we had one event last year where it went like 37 hours straight, you know,
So now on overtime, like, do you plan? Okay, I was just talking to somebody earlier this week, and they're looking to budget for next year. Now, do you budget for overtime, or do you budget just for, say, a certain amount of hours?
I budget for a certain amount, like a dollar amount, yeah, a certain amount of hours. So for the whole portfolio of everything.
Okay, for the whole season, the whole pretty much everything, yeah.
No,
So
we put a budget of man hours. We know it'll go up versus like equipment and payments and everything.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if you kind of like on a monthly basis, do you budget, like, say each guy's going to work at least 35 hours, and then if you're, you know, say doing, you know, 130 hours a month or so, do you do that way, or do you just kind of go job by job?
Do. It's yeah. So like we'll look at like November, December. Is historically we don't really get much up here anymore November, December. So you know, like it's not going to be as much. Like I'm assuming that this run was probably all we'll have in December unless we get something, you know, between Christmas and New Year. And then, you know, mid-January is usually nothing. End of January, beginning of February is usually where hours start pumping up. But at the end of the day, you know, I treat it as like, here's my annual budget for my snow operations from November 1st to April 30th. You know, and I run through with that. And then I try to make sure that like guys will get, like if I see that like, you know, first or second weekend of February, the guys aren't getting hours, I'll usually, you know, stuff that I would go out and do, I might call guys and they go knock it out. Just to make sure they're getting hours. But listen, I mean, for the most part, you know, you get, I just put one whole number on it and it kind of works out.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being your season starting off great, 1 being absolutely miserable, what would you rate it?
Say it one more time.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being your snow season starting off great. Well, that encompasses everything: your guys, the work you have, the way things are going, your equipment. 10 being the greatest and 1 being the worst. What would you rate it so far?
That's a hard one.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
so
has it started like you thought it would? Like as far any like
no, and I was just having this conversation because I actually feel like I put the wheels in motion a lot earlier. I did have a lot of the landscape work that got approved later on in the season, so it hurt. I'm not happy with how it started, but it could have been a lot worse, and we made it through it. And I wasn't able to bring in full manpower. Like I said, a lot of the equipment's down. Some of the stuff is still geared up for landscape that we couldn't take apart. You know, we had a heck up. I have 1 sander out of 4 that was up and working. My Boss VBX, you know, that was we brought it. We couldn't get the polycasters going. The steel casters in the shop were getting the fuel pump done. That's bolted on their frame. The VBX wouldn't run originally. We took some veggie oil. We saturated the chain, everything in veggie oil, greased everything up. Got it going. After the second event, the chain snapped. It caught the, I think you would call it the pinto plate. It caught, ripped the plate up, snapped the chain. You know, fortunately, I found one local at a smaller trucking center, and we got it in. And then we were having issues that the motor was dying down. You know, it's just you get nervous too when you see like coating to an inch, coating to 2 inches, because that could go either way in certain areas. I mean, just that last storm that we had, there were areas like where I am, we got 2.5 inches, but then the town over got 7.5 inches. So it can change from area to area. So I say if I had to put 1 to 10, I'd put it at a 6.5. I feel like things could have been, as much as I want to say I got the wheels turning earlier, I probably could have put a little bit more effort into getting into those polycasters early on and making sure that they were right. I'm excited going forward because this is the first time that I'm actually letting go of the reins and trying to spread out my bandwidth and kind of delegate more to guys. So I'm excited. It could have went a lot worse than when it went. So it's not horrible, but
It's not bad.
it sucks because now we got to get back into leaf cleanups and projects, and it's snowed, and it's going to rain all week, and it'll be 7 degrees on Wednesday. So freeze thaw, dry wet.
Yeah, I mean, on mine, I would say, I mean, it's just starting really. We got our second plow. We picked up the second plow earlier on Wednesday, and with not having salt ahead of time for the first little quick, burst, I feel like now we're kind of ready. We had to just same with Josh. I mean, we're working on a salter right now, so it's like just trying to get our stuff together for the season. So, I mean, but I feel like the way that the temperatures have been and the way that everything's been going for the last couple of years, I don't feel like I'm behind schedule. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we're still at a good pace of being ready for the snow, and not way behind. So I don't feel like I'm that far behind on getting everything together. But I mean, we got salt in now. We got 1 plow on out of 2. The other one, we got to do a little work on it. But I feel like, anything can change though. Tomorrow could snow 4 inches. You never know. But as you're like, Josh is pretty much prepared for, to go out and do everything. And so are we. So I feel like, maybe we're at a 6, maybe we're at 7, but I feel like we're good for the start of the season going into it.
Do you take on any last minute clients? Like after a snowstorm, people call you up?
I do. And it just depends. It has to be one of my clients that we already do service for. We'll go ahead and pick them up if they call us and say, even if they call us and, it's a driveway and we got like 4 inches, and they'll call us and say, hey, we need to get our driveway done for, the rest of the season. I'll go ahead and pick them up for the rest of the season, just to be on the safe side. But, if it's a commercial client that we don't service and they call us, like say tomorrow and say, hey, we don't have anybody we want to be on the schedule. As of our commercial, we're stuck. We're not going to add any commercial. We want to be able to stay at making sure that our commercials are happy. So, Josh, what do you?
He's good.
I try not to, but if I can get a contract, like a 2-year agreement out of it, yeah. I've learned my lessons over the year. You try to go out and be the hero and help someone else, and then something breaks, and then now you're screwed when there's something else that's coming in the next day. So I try to just keep things on the even keel. And if they want to sign like a 2-year agreement and it's in our service area, then yeah.
Hard to say no sometimes, I bet.
If the money's good, yeah. But I mean, I have a tendency of overextending myself. Historically, I have that issue where, like, I go, I'll figure even now, I got a couple of bids in Boston that just went out, and my wife looks at me like, I thought you were capping it. I'm like, yeah, but I'll figure it out. She's like, do you have the equipment? I was like, no, I'll figure it out. I'm like, I'll figure it out. It's all right. A couple BC kids with shovels doing some commercial lots. That's all right.
Why not?
I think it all depends on, like, I mean, always comes down to money. You don't want to turn away money, like Josh said, but to me, it's more of, do you have the manpower and are you ready to handle that too? Josh, do you feel like you always have enough crew members and trucks and everything to be able to handle, like say if another big factory calls you and said, hey, we want you to go ahead and do our property, could you do that?
We've always gotten things done. Whether it's like by the standard industry of getting it done, we've gotten them done. I want to say this is the year that I think I'm more than properly tooled, and I set my guys up for success. Like I think I'm leaning more on my subcontractors. My direct guys have more than enough tools and salt and equipment to handle themselves. So if they had to take something on, they could do it. That was part of me being comfortable with letting go of the reins, because there's a lot of stuff that, like, again, this storm, like this is the first time in my career I woke up 2 hours past where I was supposed to. And if I didn't lean on my subcontractors for this, I would have been running around having a panic attack trying to get everything done with a fucking calcium tank that isn't to Boat Street. So because I leaned on them and I took a breath and said, okay, I put these systems in place, and granted, they're still a little rusty right now because we're still getting things going. It worked out. And I think that's how it's going to be moving forward. I don't have as many tools on the site that I'm managing, but even on that site, I was going to run the loader down there, and I stepped away and I hired a loader operator. So that way I can be a little bit more mobile and bounce around. And even on my second biggest site, where my foreman, my area manager up there, my landscape foreman, he was going to be in the loader. And I'm interviewing next week for a loader operator so that he can be more mobile and be in a truck and focus in. He's got 8 or 9 properties, and we actually might be acquiring a salt route up there too that he'll have to manage. So it gives him the ability to manage without also having to take on every single labor responsibility, which has kind of been a tendency of ours. We're like, it's like, get the fuck out of the way, I'll do it. I'll take care of it. And you kind of just have those guys twiddling their thumbs. So that was long-winded, but yeah, I think we could handle, if something came up and we needed to do something. But I'm going to try not to overextend. I really want to dial things in. I'm tooled enough for the properties we have. I have enough reinforcements. My network has grown. I have subcontractors. I have extra equipment. I think I'm in a good place this year. The top line's there. Now it's just managing the money. And making sure that the efficiencies and the production rates are there.
So we got a question over on YouTube today. Has landscaping gone up in 2024? I say it has. Josh, your thoughts? JC, your thoughts?
I think it should. From a business standpoint, it should, right? Like if you're running your business and you're running your costs, as far as what you're charging customers, I think it has to go up with whatever the times are. But I mean, that's a different subject, I guess. What you're setting your prices on.
Yeah, I think all the prices have gone up, and it's not only labor, it's just, it's materials. Materials just keep going up, Josh, in your area, what's materials gone up?
On average, the typical average is 2 to 5%, but I've said over the past fucking 3 years, it's over 30% increase. So it's I want, like, cost has gone up. I think right now we're in 2019 2.0. I've said this a million times before, because that gap of 2020 to 2024 doesn't count. That was a fake economy that we had, that people were just pushing money out. They couldn't go anywhere. You have to realistically go back to where you were in 2018, 2019, and kind of carry off from there. I think the cost of doing business has quadrupled. People need to make more money to fucking live. Think about it now. Like a guy that's making $1,000 a week, if you got a family, that's not taking, depending on where you live in the country, and I'm going to assume in most of the country, that's not taking care of a family and allowing a wife to stay home with the kids. You know what I mean? That's you got to make 3, 4, 5 times that to get that done, especially out here on the East Coast and the Northeast. But I think, I don't know if profitabilities are going up. I see guys dropping the prices and keeping the same quality of work, but I think we need to keep things up. Again, I've said it time and time again, landscaping is not an emergency service. It is not a needed service. It is a luxury service. You can cut your own fucking grass. You can mulch your own lawn. You can fertilize your own lawn. You choose to pay to have people do these because you want it done right and you want it done manicured. So get paid that fucking. You can go to the car wash and for $10 drive through a car wash, or you could pay a guy $300 to come in and go through your car and make it look immaculate. You pay for the experience and get it done right. It's a luxury service. You don't have to get it done. It's the same way around. Prices shouldn't go down. But my insurance hasn't gone down at all. You know what I mean? The cost of equipment has done nothing but gone up. Dude, a fucking mini loader, a Cat 908, which at one point was $89,000, I think, pre-COVID. I think now is up to like $130,000, $140,000 fucking dollars. A lot of those entry-level skid steers and mini loaders aren't really entry-level for the big name brands. You can get in like XCMG, SDLG, and like Damn Strong loaders, for like the 60 to 90 gram mark. But those entry-level rates are gone.
Yeah, it's everything's gone up. I mean, look at like mini skids. Mini skids have gone from they were 26 2 years ago. Now they're up to like 46. I mean, that's good 20,000 increase.
I quoted a TX1000. I think it's a TX1000 Toro. It's one of the heavier ones, and that was about 38,000, and that was probably 3 years. I'd be scared to quote that now.
Yeah, you'd probably be like 50,000 for a Toro, I think.
50, 60 is probably where I'd be ballparking. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they've definitely increased, and just look at, like you said before on other podcasts, like look at how much plows have gone up. Look at how much salters have gone up. I mean, I was talking to a guy earlier this week. We were talking about one of the Boss salters that another guy that we know literally just spent $12,000 for it. And you're and it's like everything's going up in price. Like it's hard to pass along to customers when you're looking at equipment. And say, well, here's the cost, but I got to pay you. I got to charge you more because of the equipment I have to use. Sometimes you have to know your numbers and know exactly where you're going with everything before you give the right price too. Sometimes. So now in overtime, do you guys ever take like an overtime break from work? Because I know like us as business owners, we work like nonstop. So do you ever take a break from work, Josh, to where you're like, I need a week straight where I don't do anything?
I haven't, and I need to. And I actually just talked to my wife. So I turn 40 next year, and my trip in March is supposed to be Ireland. And I'm debating back if I want to spend the money on it or not, or if I want to just do something local. But then, like, when I compare costs of going to, like, we talked about maybe Vegas or Cali, it's the same fucking price to go there that it is to go to Ireland. So it's like, I need it. This is the first year in a while that I haven't taken some time off, even just stayed home. And I'm definitely experiencing some burnout right now because it's been, it was a slow season, and it was kind of like a runaround hustle to get work. The stress of getting the workload in, trying to sell the jobs to like, okay, now all the work's here. Now we have to execute and get it done. And now we're in the snow. So no, I need to take that overtime work. I just want to dial back because I'm thinking something at the same time. So when I addressed like the overtime what we were talking about was for snow work. For landscapes, even overtime is overtime. Anybody that works over 40 hours gets paid overtime.
Right. I think that's all across the board. I mean, I know there's some guys that try to pay their guys, straight as much as they can and not try to, go overtime. And it's like, here's a question for you, Josh. I mean, I've kind of heard it in different ways from some different guys from like Mike Andes and stuff. Like, once you start getting into a lot of overtime, do you look into hiring more people? Say if you have, let's say, 3 crews, right, going out every day. I don't know how many crews you got going out on a daily basis, but if they're consistently doing overtime, say for 6 weeks straight, are you looking to add another person to reduce that overtime? Or do you just say, I'm going to keep with these guys and not have to worry about training somebody?
I think I would start by looking at, again, production rates and what's being done with what's in front of them. I don't have a problem paying overtime if shit's getting done. You know what I mean? Like, as long as guys aren't getting burnt out. You know, I know some guys are like, oh, when it gets into the OT, you want to do this. But, like, think about it. Like, I've listened to Mike Andy shit, and some of it makes sense, and some of it I'm like, all right, you just like hearing yourself fucking talk. But it's like, all right, you're going to eliminate overtime. But that guy's also pressing buying used trucks, buying some used equipment. Like, there's a lot of variables that go into that. So, like, let's say, like, you're not going to buy used trucks. You're going to buy a new truck and maybe a few-year-old mower. You still have a pretty decent upfront cost with that. You know what I mean? Like a decent truck, you know, let's say a decent used truck for a second crew. You're not going to spend 20 grand on a decent used truck and expect it to go without a problem. So you're spending $30,000-$40,000 on a used truck. You know what I mean? You're spending no less than 10 grand on the mower, then the weed whacker, then the fuel, then the blowers and the little knickknacks to save a few $1,000s on fucking overtime. Now, if it's getting to the point where your workflow is falling behind, then yeah, I would bring more people in. But man, listen, people got to make money. You know, if guys don't mind working the extra hours and it's priced for it, then yeah, a lot of the maintenance isn't priced for it. So I think I would try to, you know, you want to keep your maintenance at maybe 45 hours a week per guy. The construction, you fucking, it goes all out, man. You just get it done. You know, you got that's where the difference of the margins come in with the labor rates are a little, the skilled labor versus lawn maintenance. Where you're not saying that, you know, doing lawn maintenance is any less than doing construction, but there's a different skill set that's involved in it, where you can charge a little bit more.
Guy over on the thing wants to know, oh, did I stumble across two of the guys are underneath me are from Boston area? And then someone wants to know, is JC single? JC, I think you are single. Are you still looking? Because there's been two people on here today that asked if you're single.
I have 3 wives.
3 wives. See, they're all just they're not in Boston. He keeps them in different areas. He's got one in Japan, one in China, and where's the other one at?
Singapore. Yeah. Bangkok.
Figures, right? Well, it is normal, right? Now we just jumped all over the place, and I don't mind jumping all over the place. You know, it's normal. The person says, "Can I be 4?" I guess you're looking for a 4th one now, JC. You know,
one's a headache enough. 3 of them is too much.
Yes, I agree with you. I think 1 wife is plenty enough, and I'm good with 1. One said, "I keep mine in Canada." What am I drinking? Windex? No, this is not Windex. It's not moonshine. It is it's an energy drink that my son just brought in. So it is definitely not moonshine. Or Windex. It looks like Windex.
It's very aqua. Blue.
Yeah, it's like a pineapple blueberry.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Very, very interesting. So, Josh, when your guys are out there, and let's say you're getting into a big snowstorm, do you ever? And I know I've done it before. Is like just say, okay, we got to take a break if it's constantly coming down. Do you say it's time to take a break and go get some dinner or lunch or whatever it be, and then get back at it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've offered when we had guys that came up from other areas that weren't from around our service area, I would offer to put, a card on a hotel room where guys could rotate out. A lot of guys don't bother with it. They'll stay on, they'll sleep in cars and trucks, whatever. But yeah, no, it's always, get it to the point where, wherever you're working on. I do have one critical infrastructure where someone has to be there at all times. But even at that point, if they get it to a point where they can scrape it down to asphalt, salt the fuck out of it, and then take off, you'll get a bite to eat or whatever. Yeah, you gotta, listen, I get it. Some guys are like, oh, you do 40 hours straight, 50 hours straight. It's great, but how efficient are you, when you're running 40 hours straight? Even now, me, as I get older, I can't do it anymore.
Right.
I got to knock out in my car. I think Thursday and Friday, I think I slept in my truck that morning. I jumped in the back seat and knocked out for an hour or two.
Right. I mean, I feel you do need a break, especially on longer snowstorms. And I've noticed in the last couple of years, like a 10 to 12 hours is pretty much a max for me. Where at that point, I got to take a good, hour, 2 hours and just stop for a second and regroup. If it's just sitting down, having something to eat or, taking a break, taking a nap or whatever, I think that's the best thing you guys can do is just take that break in between, a longer snowstorm, and that's the best thing you can do.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So moving forward, do you look into for the next couple years, how do you feel landscaping industry is going to go?
Still going to be there.
Yeah.
For sure. That's one thing.
But do you feel, I mean, I've heard multiple things where it's going to, it's going to go down or it's going to rebound, what's your guys' thoughts on it?
I think it's going to be the same. I think it's going to have its ups. It's going to have its downs. Depends on what's going on. Other factors determine the situation. I mean, like Josh says, I think that 2019 thing is correct. That was an awkward time, but you saw how that even fluctuated when it came to the business end of things, when it came to landscaping and how much of a demand it was, even more so. A lot of businesses were starting up at that time. But I mean, going back into thinking, planning ahead and stuff like that, I think it's going to definitely be obviously still there. I think it's on a rebound, but I think, there's a potential for ups and downs. I just think that the demand is always going to be there. The opportunity is going to be there. If someone wants to start a business and they do it the right way, they could start a successful business. And a lot more landscapers are getting into the hardscape portion of things, which leaves a lot more opportunities always open for those that just want to cut grass. So, and then if you want to learn, you can continue building your business a little bigger. But yeah, it's definitely going to kind of be up and down, pretty much the same.
Okay. Josh, your thoughts?
I've been trying to think about this a lot, and I think about this on the biggest scale of like the larger companies, like the Bright Views of the world, the Ferrandinos. One thing that comes into my mind is I know I've constantly spoken about how I feel like things are kind of taking a step backwards. I think that the demand for landscape is going to come back. I think Jensen's right; it's on a rebound. I think that the proposed litigation for immigration reform that's coming up in the Trump administration could potentially have a major impact in the landscape industry. So you have these larger companies like Brightview Case, Ferrandino, Valley Crest, whatever, that rely heavily on H-2B and migrant labor. You go into mass deportations or regulations of people coming in, you're going to lose that. I don't think people realize how much migrant labor plays a huge role in this industry. Now, what has always been the kind of joke is you get the Hispanic gentlemen that come in and they work their asses off, or you get the white guys that are good, they start their own company, or the guys that show up with Air Force Ones and Newports asking for an advance on their paycheck. So I think that you might actually get an influx for the smaller landscape guys when those companies are scrambling to find labor. It could have a hit on smaller guys where maybe the Bright Views of the world now have to really bump up their pay to pay, American citizens to take these positions. So I'm not sure which way that's going to go. I think that could have a catastrophic hit, or it could be, what the working class business owners need, So
Right.
Either way, like Jensen said, it's going to be there. I think we need to make a step in the right direction. I think we still need to continue to professionalize it a little bit more and take it a little bit more serious. I would like to see people talk more about production rates and efficiencies rather than just fucking bashing each other because you asked a question. Production rates are there for a reason in any industry, like engineering, mechanical, landscape, construction, they're all there. And that's kind of how you base your labor time on. So I wish guys would talk more and more about that and I think we would see the.
Do you feel people are afraid to talk about production rates?
Yeah. I think guys don't know, and I think the guys that do know, it's more of like an ego where it's like I spent all the time figuring it out myself. And my argument to that was been like, then you can't be the guy to bitch about a low bidder coming in. Because if a guy knows production rates and he understands the numbers and he understands how long things should take, understanding your numbers and knowing how long something should take are two fucking different things. You can know that it costs you $85 an hour to run your company, but do you know how long it's going to take to do that shopping plaza that has 700 islands? You know, and your pricing is if it's just a straight acre, you know, you're using that rule of thumb. So your production rates come into place there. I think a lot of guys, I don't know. I think there's ego in it, and I think there's guys that don't know and don't want to admit they don't know.
Right. I think it's something that we should all kind of share. I mean, that's how we're going to grow the businesses. Really. I mean, we all go together to kind of grow, and you know, I think there's plenty of work out there for everybody. You know,
dude, if you call a shop up on a Subaru Impreza, a 2016 Subaru Impreza for a head gasket repair, and you call 7 shops, you're going to be in a ballpark of the same number. Now, if you call 7 snowplow companies for a 12-acre site, you're going to have fucking numbers all over the place. And I get costs of business are different, but they're not that different. It depends on the scale you're doing business also. You know, right. Where I think if like the guy that's running a 72, Michigan loader versus the guy that's in a brand new Cat 928, I feel like your numbers should still be neck and neck. That's how you're going to scale up. Driving that shitbox loader around, if you can still perform, your production rates are going to be a little bit lower than what that Cat can do. But if you're charging that same rate and just hauling ass, not giving up, you're going to scale up, and then you're going to be able to afford that next step in that used loader, maybe that 2006, that 2005, and then work your way up. But if you're pricing, you're going, hey, I'm in a shitbox Michigan loader, I can be 35% less than that guy. Don't do that. Like you're pricing yourself out, and you'll never upgrade that shit, you know. And I think that's what guys have to understand. Just because you're in a ship, like I hate the chuck and the truck thing's fine. You got to start from somewhere. But I think the chucks and the trucks get stuck because they feel like that's where they need to be because that's their place in the industry. They're the guy with the rusted out ship box that charges low prices. No, bump it up. Listen, I came into it working out of a fucking 97 F250 straight blade Fisher, still running out at $200 an hour for snow and $85 an hour for landscaping, knowing that I wanted to scale up from there. You know, and that might have not been perfect for my area, but it gave me the opportunity to scale up real quick with my equipment and what I wanted to do. So don't feel because you have cheaper equipment and dirtier equipment than the guy that's, you know, paying fucking $20,000 a month in payments is any better, you know, because of that. Still charge your knowledge and what it costs to do the job.
Definitely. JC, your thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the H-2A program, that it will be a change. But the thing is, with the H-2A program, those are hired visa immigrants that are coming up. So they are, for the fact they have a work visa to come up here. So as far as like illegal,
if you read the reform on that, it's regulated now.
Yeah.
With H-2A, it goes with the tariff. So it's all gonna. I'm not trying to shit on you. This is one of the big things. It's extremely regulated how they're going to do it. So those companies that rely on those visa programs are going to be short-lived for what they bring in. Most of those companies bring in close to 500 migrants to fill those positions. The way that they're regulating that to create American jobs is they're going to cut that by like 80%.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is now that's going to shoot the demand for labor up here, become unskilled labor, and it's going to kill us on a working class where now where Brightview is setting the bar at guys to be at $35 an hour for maintenance, and a guy that's running 2 trucks in the neighborhood can't swing that. It's going to fuck a lot of people.
Yeah, but I just wanted to clarify as far as like people's impression on like saying that like the immigrants are going to no longer be here. It's not like they're going to be here no matter what because they're visa holders that come up for work. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of changes, and I think it's going to be positive for us all in the long run. And I think that's the perfect thing. So, well, we've had a great talk tonight, and wherever you're at, subscribe and subscribe and like us, watch us. I was about ready to say subscribe and save, but I don't have nothing to say. But thank you guys for watching us. Hit us up with any questions you guys got. I know we're always on here. We're every Sunday. We're on Instagram Live. We're on Facebook Live. We're on Twitch Live. We're on a different bunch of places live. But you can also listen to us on Spotify, Boots on Ground Radio every Thursday at noon. So definitely go over there and listen to us on Thursdays. And then we're just random sometimes. It's on Boots on Ground Radio. So definitely go ahead and check us out there too. So
what the fuck is Twitch?
What you want?
What is Twitch?
Twitch is another social media site. We'll talk later about this. I'm going to Twitch you, okay? So we'll talk to you guys all later next week. Thanks to our sponsor, Cujo. And we have a new sponsor this week, Pro Parts Direct. Thank them also for allowing us to be on here, guys. So hopefully, you guys, if you need anything, definitely check them out. So